Political change in Guatemala. Less violence, more power? In the interview, Guatemala's President-elect Otto Pérez Molina.
Mr. Perez, the people have voted, and you'll soon take office as president. What are your aims for your presidency?
We've set three main aims. The first is improving security and justice in our country. The second will be promoting economic growth. We hope to attract investors to the country to help create jobs for Guatemalans. And the third goal is to try to develop rural areas and promote social progress. There's still a lot left to do. There's a lot of inequality in Guatemala, and we have to find out how we can close that gap.
Are you sure that you'll be able to meet your people's expectations?
That's the big challenge. I'm dedicated to this task, and I will work tirelessly. I and the governing team we're setting up will do our best to live up to people's hopes. Guatemalans have voted and given me their trust. They believe that I can solve the country's big problems, and that's what I'll be spending the next 4 years working on.
You've pledged to govern with a firm hand. What does that mean in a country that's experienced so much violence and poverty?
The firm hand really was our most important campaign slogan. A firm hand, but with a head and heart approach. We wanted something that would sum up, in 2 words, our zero-tolerance policy towards delinquency, corruption, and breaking the law. These are the 3 big points defined by our firm hand concept.
Why didn't your predecessors take more drastic measures to tackle these serious problems that you mention?
I'd say there are a number of reasons for that. With security, for example, my predecessors just lacked the will. They didn't realize the issue was a priority for Guatemalans. I'm not just talking about the election result, but also scientific studies based on surveys that indicate violence is the main problem for 65 to 70% of Guatemalans. That's why I'm taking care of that. Previous presidents saw it differently. They focused on other issues.
Guatemala faces some serious problems, but they aren't too different from those faced by other countries in the region. As a former general, how will your Guatemala fit into Central America? What political course are you planning for the region?
First and foremost, we want to promote solidarity between Central American states. And there are key tasks ahead, like standardizing customs regulations. We should also strengthen the entities that allow us to act in concert and lead negotiations with the rest of the world. That not only makes us stronger, it's also better for Guatemalans. We want to attract investors to the region. It doesn't matter if they go to Honduras, El Salvador, or Guatemala, but they should come to Central America and see us as a union, a united Central America that is concerned with the well-being of all Central Americans.
Together with other Central American states, your country has negotiated partner projects with the European Union. How would you assess the potential for cooperation between Guatemala, Central America, and Europe?
I'm very optimistic about it. I hope that cooperation with the European Union on economic issues and on the diplomatic level will get stronger over the next 4 years. That goes for Guatemala and all of Central America. And I'm committed to making that happen. We'll work toward that goal in a more open, transparent, and clear way. And that means we'll do our part too. We'll raise taxes and not just wait for someone to help develop our country. I'm confident this policy will bear fruit in the next 4 years.
In Latin America, there's an association of left-wing states called ALBA, and then there's a set of conservative governments that see themselves as a political alternative. How does Guatemala fit into this political landscape in Latin America?
Our policy will involve being open to all sides. We hope to have the best possible relations with both conservative countries as well as ALBA nations. Ultimately, it's not just about improving ties, because the problems in many countries are very similar. The drug trade issue affects the entire region, from the U.S. to South America, and Guatemalans are also affected. Human trafficking and weapons smuggling affect us all, as do social issues like education and health. I think we have to tackle these problems together and at the same time improve our trade ties with all countries, whether they're part of ALBA or more conservative.
In Colombia, a former guerrilla fighter was elected to the second highest office in the land. Here, a general will become president, someone with past ties to the military. There was criticism of Colombia, and there was also criticism of you. How do you view that criticism, and what role do your experiences play for you today?
¿Cómo ve usted estas críticas y qué experiencia recoge usted de este pasado centroamericano?
My appeal is for unity. And it's not just directed at political parties, but toward the leaders of all social organizations and all Guatemalans, so that we can work together over the next 4 years. Of course, there will be criticism from certain circles, and our government will welcome it, because it will help us to correct our mistakes.
4 years pass quickly. What do you want to be able to say when your term ends?
I would like to be able to tell Guatemalans that I fulfilled my mission, that I was able to solve the problems I was tasked with, that Guatemala has become safer, a country with less violence that's been able to attract investors, create jobs, and close the gap between rich and poor. That is my dream, and I will do all I can in the next 4 years to make it come true.
But you know you'll only be governing for 1 year, because if you believe the Mayan calendar, the world's going to end soon. How do you see it? And can you give the world a little peace of mind?
Well, there's a different interpretation of the Mayan calendar, and it says the year 2012 is a year of changes, and that doesn't necessarily mean destruction. And here in the cradle of Mayan culture, we interpret it in a positive way. These changes will be a breath of fresh air, bringing opportunity and better times for Guatemalans. That's how we see it. I've also spoken with representatives of the Mayan people, and we concluded it would be a time of change in Guatemala and the world, and not a time of destruction.
Thank you for this interview.
Thank you.